It was my freshman year of high school, and kids at school were talking about pornography, and I had no idea what it was. They were talking about don't watch this, just talking about it, joking about it very casually, and that sparked curiosity in me, and that led to me just Googling it, and from there I was addicted to pornography for a few months. I didn't know it was wrong. No one in the church had ever talked about it. I really struggled. I was questioning myself, and there was definitely conviction there, because I would go back and forth in my head of is this wrong? Is it not? But I had no idea. So after a few months, it was definitely by the grace of God that I was convicted. I was like, okay, this is wrong. I shouldn't be watching this. And I stopped. I did cut it out of my life. But at that point, I was still struggling with masturbation. And that was something that didn't go away. And that, by my own will, kind of tried to stop, but still didn't know if it was wrong. And I kind of just lived in this secret sin. All of high school, it was something that I didn't plan to ever talk about. No one in the church, no one from my faith community ever talked about these sin struggles, and I thought I was the only one. I graduated high school and went to a small private Christian college my freshman year, and that is where God kind of revealed to me hey, the world is very broken, and there's a lot of people who struggle in life with sin struggles. And there was a girl in my hall my freshman year, and she was the first person to ever sit down, and she just said, hey, tell me your story. And I didn't necessarily even know my testimony at that point. This was the first time I'd been in a community where there were people actually pursuing a relationship with the Lord, and I knew that I wanted that, and I knew that that was something that I was pursuing, but there was something holding me back. And essentially, I told her my story, didn't mention anything about my struggles with pornography, but in my mind, it was always there. And then she told me her story, and there were things in her story that she struggled with, essentially. Nothing about pornography or masturbation or anything, but they were sexual sins that I was okay, if she has the courage to tell me these things, I feel like I could tell someone this sin, that this struggle that I've had. And just at the end I said, hey, there's something else I didn't tell you, but maybe one day I'll tell you. I didn't tell her. And it took me a good few months before she kept asking me. She was like, did you want to tell me? And eventually I told her, and I just remember everything in me, it was just in my gut, just such a sick feeling of I have to tell her, I watched pornography, and I didn't say anything more. It was just pornography. That's all I said to her, but that was enough that I experienced a little bit of freedom from telling her that. And it was the first step towards God leading me towards freedom. And near the end of that year, my hall, 15, 20 girls would share their testimony sometimes in our small group. And I shared my testimony. I told every single girl, I sat there on the couch crying, and I told them that I had struggled with pornography. And God started putting a passion in my heart to talk about it, because I really felt like everyone talked about it as a guy problem, and I felt very alone in that struggle, and I wanted to talk about it. And after that conversation, there was a girl in the hall who came up to me, and she was like, hey, that's something that I used to struggle with too. And that was very encouraging to me, just knowing like I wasn't alone. The next year, so my junior year of college, I transferred schools, and I came to Liberty University, and I heard about Proven Women. I just kept hearing about it, and there was an interest meeting, and pretty much what happened was I was like, okay, I should go. I know like what I have struggled with. I know what I am kind of still struggling with, but I don't know if I ever want to talk about it. I didn't want to ever talk about it. And I remember walking to the interest meeting, and my hands were sweating. I was so nervous. And that was just a sign of, like, looking back, I just know that I needed to be there, because there was still sin in my life that I had never confessed to God or anyone else, and I never said it out loud. And going to that meeting was one of the best decisions I ever made. It was definitely a turning point in my life. There were hundreds of girls there, and there were a couple girls who got up and shared their testimonies, and I was just so encouraged that, first of all, that I wasn't alone, that other women struggled too, and I had the opportunity to sign up for one of these groups, and so I did. And God used my Proven Women group to completely change my life, and most importantly, my relationship with Him. So during the time that I was in my Proven Women group, I remember the main focus was just on, for me, and the whole group, was definitely vulnerability and just being very intentional about our struggles and where we were currently. And in that group, that was the first time I had ever opened up about my struggle with masturbation. And because for so long it had been so easy for me to tell other people of this sin that, like, I'd essentially conquered, but then not the one that I was still, like, struggling with. And there was so much vulnerability in that group, and just so many women coming together and talking about just as a woman how alone you feel when the messages you hear is, oh, it's only a guy's problem, oh, this, like, I'm alone in this. And that is definitely just such a tactic of Satan, and he wants us to feel so alone. Through my Proven Women group, and the study that we went through, my eyes were completely open to just God's word and the beauty of it. My eyes were completely opened and changed. Like, reading the word was just, it just completely changed for me. Once it's something that you struggle with, it's something that we always have to be intentional about fighting against. So through that, I started going through the study again, kind of on my own, and God just reminded me of what I had learned in the study, and He started to just really teach me that He doesn't see, like, this timeline of my life, and He doesn't see my sin, and, like, if I mess up, it's not like I'm restarting all over. Like, His love for me never changes, and like, that sin in my past is something that I'm always going to have to flee from, and that's, the Bible says, flee from that sin, and that's intentional. So through this whole journey so far, it's just, reflecting on it has just been such a testimony of God's protection and faithfulness in my life, and opening doors to opportunities for freedom when I needed them most. So through Proven Women, God brought me the accountability that I needed and community that I needed, and He has just been so faithful and hasn't failed me. My name is Holly Nygren, and I'm a proven woman.